My next topic is about choosing the appropriate statistical technique. After you have selected an acceptable level of statistical significance to your test hypothesis, the next step is to decide on the appropriate method to test the hypothesis. The choice of the appropriate statistical technique largely depends on the number of independent and dependent variables you are examining and the scale of measurement, metric and non-metric, of your variables. Other aspects that play a role are whether the assumptions of parametric tests are met and the size of your sample. Number 1. Testing a hypothesis about a single mean. The one sample t-test. Used to test the hypothesis that the mean of the population from which a sample is drawn is equal to a comparison standard, or compares the mean of a sample to a pre-specified value and tests for a deviation from that value. For example, we might know that the average birth weight for white babies in the US is 3,410 grams and wish to compare the average birth weight of a sample of black babies to this value. That's the sample of testing a hypothesis about a single mean. Number 2. Testing hypothesis about two related means. The paired sample t-test is to examine the differences in the same group before and after a treatment. A two-sample test is a test performed on the data of two random samples, each independently obtained from a different given population. The purpose of the test is to determine whether the difference between these two populations is statistically significant. For example, would a group of employees perform better after undergoing training than they did before? In this case, there would be two observations for each employee, one before the training and one after the training. And for sample number 2, what you see at the table are scores that are significantly increased before the training and after the training. That is what we call testing hypothesis about two related means. Number 3, testing hypothesis about two unrelated means. There are many instances when we are interested to know whether two groups are different from each other on a particular interval scale or ratio scale variable of interest. For example, do MBAs perform better in organizational settings than business students with only a bachelor degree? Do individuals in urban areas have a different investment pattern for their savings than those in semi-urban areas? Do CPAs perform better than non-CPAs in accounting tests? To find answers to such questions, an independent sample t-test is carried out to see if there are any significant differences in the means of two groups in the variable of interest. That is a nominal variable that is split into two subgroups. For example, smokers and non-smokers, younger and older employees, etc., is tested to see if there is a significant mean difference between the two split groups on a dependent variable, which is measured on an interval or ratio scale. And the example in this what I was mentioned earlier, the two individuals or two separate groups of testing. That is the example of testing hypothesis about two unrelated means. Number 4, testing hypothesis about several means, or the analysis of variance. ANOVA is used to test hypotheses concerning means. We have several populations. Helps to examine the significant mean differences among more than two groups on, on an interval or ratio scale dependent variable. The first example is there a significant differences in the number of sales by the following four group of salespersons? The keyword here is the significant differences in numbers of sales between the four salespersons. Those who are sent to training schools, those who are given on-the-job training during field trips, those who have been tutored by the sales manager, and those who have none of the above. Or is the rate of promotion significantly different for those who have assigned mentors, choose their own mentors, or none of the above? And another example of ANOVA, analysis of variance testing hypothesis about several means, is the graph below with the compare of the golfers and brands he or she is using. What we see is there are 5 golfers comparing with their use of brands and type of golf club they are using.